Hey everybody, thank you so much for choosing me and Omega Paws as Boone's dog trainer. As you know, we've had Boone for over 3 weeks and it's just time for him to go home. We want to do this instructional video in case there is any information that you might have forgotten in the turnover. There is a lot of information given to you all at once, so we want to make sure that we have this reference video in the event that you forget anything. Of course, you are welcome to free lessons afterwards where we are able to meet up 1 hour once a month to go over anything that you might have forgotten. So, I did have an instructional video on this e-collar. This e-collar will be going home with Boone. Now, what we do with this e-collar is we communicate with him. There's another video attached to his blog that's gonna go over all of the safety. But just in a nutshell, the way that we're going to use this is that I'm gonna say Boone, and I'm gonna ask him to sit. We're gonna use a couple of things. I'm gonna use his name first, and I'm gonna give him the visual cue, sit. The first one's always gonna be a free one. If he doesn't listen, then the next one, I'm going to dial this by 1/4 inch, and I'm gonna say, Boone, sit, and click. Right, the last thing I want to do is say, Boone, sit, 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 and repeat myself 1,000 times. What I want to do is I want to say, Boone, sit. He doesn't listen. The next time I say sit, and I increase the stimulation each time I have to repeat myself, right? Boone knows how to sit. This has been proven over and over. He knows how to sit. Whether he listens is going to be another situation, right? A different scenario. But what we want to do is we want to create value in the things that we're saying. We want to obligate him to follow through. Now we do a lot of motivation here. Motivation should be the #1 method that you're gonna get him to follow through on cues. Motivation is using a high-pitched voice, using treats, using all kinds of fun stuff to make him excited, right? But when he doesn't listen after all that, we do obligate. So I'll show you a little bit about how that's gonna work. He's a little bit tired right now because we're playing a little bit too much, so he doesn't really want to sit. So I'll show you how that looks. Boone. Should I say his name? Boone, sit. So I did my visual cue. Now I'm gonna dial this to a 1/4 inch because the moment that he breaks, I'm gonna start clicking. Sit, buddy, sit. So when he breaks, I start giving him that tapping sensation. You didn't notice him cry, you didn't notice him flinch, you didn't notice him be in distress, right? It's not made to be a punishment device. It's not fair for us to punish him just for not following through on a sit. I know, buddy. It's a hot summer day, the middle of July. Okay, down. Okay, so we're gonna move straight into the down cue. Now, what you saw there is that he wanted, So as soon as he broke, I started clicking and I reminded him to put down. So down means down, just like sit means sit. Now, I didn't want to focus too long on the sit because it is a hot day. It's not that hot, but because he has a lot of fur, no, down, down. Okay. Down means down, just like sit means sit. Doesn't mean roll around and do all this crazy stuff. Off, down. All right, so a couple things happened there. When I asked him to down, you know, as I said, I do give him a visual cue. I point down to the floor. I increase this by a 1/4 inch. The moment that he messes up, you're gonna hear me say, and then I'm going to start clicking. What he should feel is a shoulder tapping sensation indicating to him that he is in the wrong, right? But we're not gonna be punishing him, we're just tapping it, right? Punishment that does happen with this when you increase it so high that it becomes painful. We're talking about a 1/4 inch, somewhere around a 10, 15, maybe 20, maybe a 20, down. So down means down. He's not allowed to break the cue, he's not allowed to roll over, eat anything off the floor. So there's time to play, and that's when I release him from the cue, which I'll get into in just a moment. So when we ask him to down or to sit, I wanna be able to walk around him. Now if he's sitting and he lays down and he wants to lay down, get him back to that sit cue, and then you could ask him to lay down. So you're getting him to lay down on your terms rather than his terms. So he's technically not breaking the cue, but we are meeting in the middle. So I should be able to walk around and kind of just enjoy myself, and he should be able to lay down. So I'm always anticipating that he's going to mess up. Nothing wrong with failure when it comes to dogs. Nothing wrong with him messing up. I always tell people, don't have an emotional reaction to him messing up. Failure is what dogs are gonna do all day long. He's always gonna mess up, sure. He knows how to hold down or that sit for a long time. Is he gonna mess up? Yeah, he is. It doesn't mean that he's gonna be perfect. It just means that he understands it, but sometimes he gets distracted. Dogs are very distractible, and I'm sure you know that. Good job, buddy. So in between, you can give him lots of love and praise. You can even give him some treats, but fair warning, sometimes when you give him a treat, he does break the cue thinking that the cue is over. Now, there's only 2 ways that that cue is gonna be over. It's when I get him into another cue, or I say, break. And now he's allowed to be goofy, he's allowed to be silly, he's allowed to do whatever it is that he wants as long as he's not breaking the cue or breaking any rules, right? So Now that he's technically on the next cue, which is a break cue, I'm gonna dial it back to about 1/4 inch. In case he jumps or eats anything that he's not supposed to or does something that he's not supposed to, I'm immediately gonna say off, right? I wanna control his break time. I wanna make sure that he's being polite, he's following rules. Okay? So when we say, or when he breaks a rule, he does something he's not supposed to, we immediately say off, and there's no freebie on that one. We immediately click, right? And I do raise it relatively high, somewhere around a 30, right? If he does something he's not supposed to, I say off, right? Off that squirrel, off that trash can, off that. And I make that association that he has to that behavior uncomfortable. Now I'm gonna go to the next cue, right? I'm not gonna keep this at a 30. I'm gonna dial it back down somewhere around a 10 or 15. I'm gonna say, Boone, come. Sit. Perfect. So I dialed it low, anticipating that he's gonna mess up. I say, Boone, give him the hand gesture, and he comes all the way around, loops to my left side, ears parallel with my hip, feet parallel with mine. So now he's in the sit cue. Keep in mind that there is 2 cues when we're doing this one. It's the come, loops around, then he sits. Sit. So he's not allowed to break that sit cue. Now I'm gonna have this ready in case he messes up. Again, nothing wrong with messing up, but we're just there to coach him through those errors. I can see those legs starting to kind of slide, so that's an indication. So I'm gonna keep my eye on that. Good job, buddy. So I should be able to talk to him without him messing up. So don't be afraid to talk to him if he messes up. Just go ahead and let him know, start clicking. Good job, buddy. That's a good boy. That's a good man. Just because we're giving treats and praise doesn't mean that the cue is over. That's a good boy, boys. Good job, buddy. All right, so the next cue is gonna be the most important cue. We're gonna go straight into it. It's gonna be our heel cue. So what this means is that he has to walk right by my side. He's not allowed to walk ahead. He's not allowed to pee. He's not allowed to poop. Ears are gonna be parallel with mine, my hip, feet aligned with mine. So I'll show you how the heel's supposed to look. And this is why we do the come to sit the way that we do. Boone, come, come. Over here. Good job. Boone, heel. Right by my side, heel. I juke him, try to challenge him to mess up. Heel. Come on, buds. Good boy. And then, of course, you definitely want to keep praising him while we're doing it. Now, when you're doing your weekly practices, I do want you to kind of do random left and right turns. This is how we keep them to stay right by our side, by constantly making them expect the unexpected, right? It might look, come on, heel. It might look like we're walking in a straight line, and then boom, we go straight to a left, off, heel. Sit. Now when we stop, sit. When we stop, you should stop with us and go into an automatic sit. Good job, my love. Down. So I know that he wanted to lay down. I didn't let him, but then I released it from the sit and put him into the get down cue. I met in the middle because I know he's a little bit tired. It's a little bit warm. I saw him look at that water that he kind of chugged earlier. He does want some water. We'll give him some right now. But it's very important that we follow the rules for the heel. The heel, the way that dogs are designed, is going to be very indicative of your entire relationship. If there is one thing that I want you guys to focus on, it's going to be the heel. Does he respect you? Does he acknowledge you? Does he acknowledge the fact that you exist, or is he doing whatever he wants? Does he listen to you? This is all going to be so important because I can tell a person's relationship with their dog depending on how they walk together. So be very diligent how you're performing that heel cue with him. Hi, buddy. All right, so the next cue is going to be our place cue. Place is one of my favorite cues because it does give you that companion. It's the one that you're able to take your dog to a park and pretty much do whatever you want, and your dog is going to remain in one place. Now, is it going to be perfect all the time? No. Can you make it perfect by constant training? Yes. Boone, place. Place. So he was going for it, thought about it, and then decided to walk away, and then I said, and I clicked immediately, and he looked, and then we went right on, right? So we communicated to him that he thought the wrong thought. As you continue working with him, you'll know when he thinks to do something else, and he literally looked at it and then wanted to go do something else. So I saw that thought, and then I clicked, and then he went back on to follow through on the cue. Good job, buddy. And remember, you want to give him lots of love and praise. Let him know he's a good boy. So place means place. It doesn't mean anything but that. So I'm going to dial this a 1/4 inch. Now remember, in between each cue, I dial it back to a 0. I don't want to keep increasing it every single cue because at some point I will end up at 100, and we don't want to punish on cues. We want to communicate. Now, if I tell him several times over to go to his place and he's not listening, then yeah, we might make it somewhat uncomfortable, but really, if it becomes painful, we're just gonna grab him by the leash and pull him on there, right? We shouldn't be punishing obedience. If I see him struggle to go to his place and we've already went to a 30 and he's flinching and he's feeling this e-collar a lot, I'm just gonna grab the leash and I'm gonna hold the tension until he follows through on that cue. Once he does, I'm gonna celebrate, right? We're doing that balanced approach. Like, I know you don't want to, but you're going to. But when you do, you're gonna get rewards. Now, does he do that often? Not really, but as it is something to be mindful of in the event that it ever happens, you want to make sure you're always keeping a balanced approach. In contrast, if he is to make a decision on certain things, right? Whether he wants to follow through or not, good behavior gets treats, bad behavior gets a nick of the e-collar. So, say that there's food right there, right? It's not his food. He decides to go to that food, right? After all that temptation, I'm going to nick him. Say that he looks at that food, thinks about it, but refuses to go to it, I'm gonna give him treats, right? So I'm gonna say no to bad behavior if he does it, but if he does right behavior, I'm gonna give him lots of treats. And I'm not talking about 1 or 2 treats, I'm talking about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 treats at once, right? Because he made a good decision, I'm gonna pay him the best payment that I possibly can, right? Really good reward. This is how we keep certain reward systems really high. So also for our come to sit, or really any cue for that matter, if he does okay, right? If I ask him to sit, but he sits over there, okay, he sat, he gets a little pat in the head. But if he comes and he sits and he does it all perfectly, he's gonna get treats. Place, place, place. So now I'm just continuously tapping, place. So I know he wants to lay on the grass. Place, buddy, place. But I am asking him to be on place, right? Sit, break, break. All right, so now he can do whatever it is that he wants. But if I ask him to go on place, he's allowed to sit or lay down. Unless I tell him to go on place and I ask him specifically to sit, then he's technically on the sit cue, so he's not allowed to lay down. Something to keep in mind of. Now, sounds like there's a lot of rules, and the reason why we're doing this is because at some point it's gonna matter that he listens. At some point it's gonna matter that he follows through, right? Because there might be a dangerous situation where he's running to a dog that he's not supposed to be running to, because that might be a dangerous situation. We want him to follow through on the cues. All of this stuff is gonna lead up to one day where it actually matters. Right now, does it matter a whole lot? Not really, it's not a life or death situation, but one day it will be. So this is why we practice all the things that we practice. You know, I'm sure you love Boone, I love Boone, so we wanna make sure that Boone is safe. Company. Good job, my love. All right, because of his reactivity, we wanted to just include this really quickly, just to kind of show you how it's going to look moving forward. So like I said, whenever we say off, we do increase it a little higher. We want to make bad behavior uncomfortable, right? Not painful, but we do want to make it uncomfortable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I have a good handle on him. I'm going to raise this to about a 25. He's a little bit sensitive, so I'm not really going to use a 30. And I am going to ask him to sit, and then we're going to have Lewis pass by us. So we know he has an issue with darker brown dogs. Sit. So I nicked him, asked him to sit, not allowing him to break that sit. So this is exactly what we want from him. We don't want him necessarily to be friends. Sit. Sit, Boone. Sit. We don't necessarily need him to be friends, but we also don't want him to be rude or mean either, right? Heel. Sit. Sit. Good job, buddy. Off. So this is how it should look. Is it going to be perfect all the time? No. But we want him to be able to hold his composure. Now, he's worked alongside a lot of dogs during the 3 weeks, but every now and then a mean dog who starts it might agitate him a little bit and trigger him. But overall, he's a pretty good boy. Heel. Sit. All right, thank you so much for choosing Omega Paws and letting us train Boone for the past 3 weeks. You have no idea what an incredible journey these past 3 weeks have been. I truly thank you. Now, of course, if you have any questions or problems, I hope that you can reach out to me and communicate to me at any time. You guys have a great one. Thank you.